Tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, you wake up to a brand new day with a fresh opportunity in front of you. And instead of feeling the weight of everything you think you need to do, you feel a sense of focus, of calmness, because you realize that today, you don't have to tackle it all. You just need to focus on one thing, getting 1% better. Now I know what you might be thinking. What can 1% really do? It seems small, doesn't it? But that's where the magic lies. It's not about making huge leaps overnight or setting impossible standards. It's about small, consistent improvements that compound over time. 1% isn't just a number. It's a way of thinking, a mindset shift that can create massive transformation in your life. Here's the thing. It's easy to get caught up in the rush for big results, for instant success. But real growth doesn't work that way. It's the small, steady improvements that create lasting change. Think about it. If you improve just 1% every day at the end of the year, you'll have improved by over 30%. That's 30% better at your work, at your relationships, at your health. It's not magic. It's just the power of consistency. Today, we're going to break down exactly how you can start applying this principle to your life. How that 1% can change your habits, shift your mindset, and help you build momentum that will carry you through any challenge. Whether it's your career, your personal growth, or simply how you approach your day-to-day life, those small improvements add up in ways that can completely transform your reality. By the time we're done, you'll understand how powerful that 1% really is. It's not about waiting for the big moment to change your life. It's about the small decisions you make today, right now. So stick with me. I promise you, this is the kind of change that will stay with you for the long haul. And it all starts with just 1%. Number 1, start small. Think big. Let's talk about something simple, yet life-changing. Starting small but thinking big. Now I know when we talk about changing your life, transforming your circumstances, or reaching your goals, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to think you need to make some huge, grand move to get started. But let me tell you something. It's not the big moves that change your life. It's the small, consistent steps you take every single day. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wanted to do something great, but stopped before you even began? Maybe you had a goal so big, so overwhelming that you thought, I don't even know where to start. You're not alone. Most people feel that way. But here's the truth. You don't have to conquer the entire mountain in one day. All you have to do is take the first step. That's it. Starting small doesn't mean thinking small. Let's get that clear. Starting small is a strategy. It's a way to build momentum, to create habits, and to move toward a bigger vision. When you start small, you're not just doing something easy. You're building a foundation, and a strong foundation is what holds everything else together. Think about this for a moment. If you decided to improve just 1% every day, how much better would you be in a year? Most people don't realize this, but 1% better every day doesn't just add up. It multiplies. Over a year, you wouldn't just be 365% better, you'd be 37 times better. That's the power of small improvements. But let's break it down even more. What does 1% better look like in your daily life? It could mean reading one page of a book today. It could mean taking the stairs instead of the elevator. It could mean putting away just $1 into savings. These aren't huge actions. They're simple, doable things. But when you do them consistently, they create a ripple effect that changes everything. I remember meeting someone who told me they wanted to change their financial situation. They were in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and felt completely stuck. Now their big goal was to be debt-free, but that goal felt so far away that they didn't even know where to begin. So I told them, start with $1, just save $1 a day. They laughed. $1? What's that going to do? But they did it anyway, and something amazing happened. That $1 a day turned into $2, then $5, then $10. Over time, they built the habit of saving. And once they had that habit, they started tackling their debt, one payment at a time. A few years later, they were debt-free and had savings in the bank. It didn't happen overnight, but it all started with that first dollar. Starting small also helps you overcome one of the biggest barriers to success. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of not knowing how. Fear of looking foolish. But here's the thing about starting small. It's not scary. It's manageable. It's something you can do right now, today, without any excuses. Think about it. If you want to get healthier, you don't have to run a marathon on day one. Just go for a 10-minute walk. If you want to learn a new skill, you don't have to master it overnight. Spend 5 minutes watching a tutorial. When you start small, you give yourself permission to begin. And beginning is the hardest part. Now let me tell you why thinking big is just as important. When you start small, you're taking those first steps, but you need a bigger vision to guide you. You need to know where you're going, what you're working toward, and why it matters. Without a vision, those small steps can feel meaningless. So what's your vision? What do you want your life to look like in 5 years? 10 years? Think about it in detail. Picture it in your mind. How does it feel? What does it look like? The clearer your vision, the more motivated you'll be to take those small daily steps. Let me share another story with you. I once knew a man who wanted to start a business. He didn't have much, just a small idea and a lot of determination. He didn't try to build an empire overnight. He started with one product, one customer. Every day he worked to improve just a little: better service, better marketing, better systems. Today that business is thriving. But it all started with one small step and a big vision. Now, I'm not saying this journey will always be easy. There will be days when progress feels slow, when it feels like those small steps aren't making a difference. But let me tell you, they are. Success doesn't come from one big leap. It comes from consistent effort, day after day. If you ever feel discouraged, remember this: every expert was once a beginner. Every successful person started small. They started where they were, with what they had, and they didn't stop. You can do the same. So here's my challenge to you. What's one small step you can take today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Maybe it's writing down a goal. Maybe it's making a phone call you've been putting off. Maybe it's taking a walk or reading a page of a book. Whatever it is, do it. And then, do it again tomorrow. One step at a time, one day at a time. That's how you transform your life. Start small, think big, and never stop moving forward. You've got this. Number 2, 1% as a daily decision. Every single day you have a choice. You get to decide what kind of day you're going to have, what kind of effort you're going to put in, and most importantly, what kind of person you're becoming. You're in charge. You hold the pen to the story you're writing. And the idea I want to share with you today is this: the decision to improve by just 1% every day is one of the most life-changing choices you can make. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Jim, 1%? That's barely anything. How's that supposed to change my life? Well, let me tell you something. It's not about what happens in one day. It's about what happens over time. That 1%, when you stack it, day after day, week after week, month after month, turns into something extraordinary. It's like compounding interest. It's small at first, almost invisible, but it builds, it grows, and eventually it transforms everything. Here's why this idea is so powerful. It's manageable. It's something you can actually do. I'm not asking you to wake up tomorrow and overhaul your life. I'm asking you to wake up tomorrow and do one small thing better than you did today. That's it. One choice, one step, one decision. And the beauty of it is that anyone can do this. No matter where you're starting from, no matter what your circumstances are, you can make this choice. Now let's break this down a bit, because I want you to really feel how achievable this is. Improving by 1% doesn't mean you have to reinvent the wheel every day. It could mean taking 5 extra minutes to read a book that inspires you. It could mean drinking an extra glass of water to take care of your health. It could mean reaching out to someone you care about and telling them how much they mean to you. These are small actions, but they add up. They create momentum. They build a habit of growth. Let me share a story with you. I once met a man who was struggling in almost every area of his life. His finances were a mess. His health was deteriorating, and he felt stuck in his career. He told me, "Jim, I don't know where to start. Everything feels overwhelming." So I said to him, "Don't try to fix everything at once. Start with one thing. Pick one area of your life and decide to get 1% better at it today. Just 1%. He decided to start with his health. He didn't join a fancy gym or go on some extreme diet. He simply started walking for 10 minutes every morning. That was it. 10 minutes. But here's what happened. After a week, those 10 minutes turned into 15, then 20, then 30. He started feeling more energized. So he began making healthier food choices. That extra energy spilled over into his work, and he started tackling projects with more focus and enthusiasm. Before long, he was improving in every area of his life. And it all started with that simple decision to improve by 1%. The key here is consistency. It's not about doing something perfectly. It's about doing it consistently. You see, most people quit too soon. They try something for a week, maybe 2. And when they don't see big results right away, they give up. But the real magic happens when you stick with it. That's when those small improvements begin to compound. That's when you start to see the bigger picture come together. Here's another thing I want you to understand. Improving by 1% every day is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's about looking at every situation and asking yourself, how can I do this just a little bit better? It's not about being perfect. It's not about being the best. It's about being better than you were yesterday. That's it. Better than yesterday. And let me tell you, this mindset isn't just for the big things. It works in the small, everyday moments too. Let's say you're having a conversation with someone. How can you be 1% more present? How can you listen just a little more intently? Or maybe you're working on a project. How can you give it just a little more effort or focus? These small shifts may not seem like much in the moment, but over time they create a ripple effect that can transform your life. Now, I know life isn't always easy. There are days when you'll feel tired, discouraged, or even defeated. That's normal. That's part of being human. But here's what I want you to remember. Even on those days, you can still make the choice to get 1% better. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be flashy. It just has to be something. Because every small action you take moves you closer to the person you want to become. I want you to imagine this for a moment. Picture yourself a year from now. If you committed to improving by just 1% every day, where would you be? What would your life look like? What kind of person would you have become? That's the power of this idea. It's not about what you do today. It's about what those small daily actions create over time. It's about the life you build one choice at a time. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is that you have the power to change your life. Not by making some massive, overwhelming change, but by making small, deliberate choices every day. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. Start today. Start where you are. Start with what you have. And commit to getting 1% better every day. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward the life you deserve. So take that step, make that choice, and watch as your life transforms. One day at a time. You've got this. I believe in you. Number 3, habits is the foundation of success. Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your life is built on habits? I mean, the things you do without even thinking, those routines, those patterns, those little actions that you repeat day in and day out, they're so automatic that they almost seem invisible. But here's the truth. Habits are the foundation of success. They're what shape your days, and eventually, they shape your life. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Most people think success is about those big, flashy moments, the grand achievements, the big wins, the trophies. But the truth is, success is built in the small, quiet moments. It's built in the choices you make every single day. And most of those choices are driven by your habits. So if you want to change your life, if you want to achieve something extraordinary, you don't start with the big things. You start by building better habits. Let's talk about what a habit really is. At its core, a habit is simply a behavior that you repeat over and over until it becomes automatic. It's like putting yourself on autopilot. And here's the thing about autopilot. It works for you or against you, depending on what habits you've created. If you've built good habits, they'll move you closer to your goals. If you've built bad habits, well, they'll take you further away from where you want to be. But here's the good news. Habits are not set in stone. You can change them. You can create new ones. You can replace the ones that aren't serving you. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes consistency. But it's absolutely possible. And when you do, the impact is incredible. Because habits compound over time. The small actions you take every day add up. They build momentum. And eventually, they create a life that reflects those choices. So how do you do it? How do you build habits that lead to success? Well, it starts with clarity. You need to get crystal clear on what you want. What's your vision? What's your goal? What's the life you're trying to create? You see, if you don't know where you're going, it's hard to figure out how to get there. So take a moment to think about it. What's important to you? What do you want to achieve? What kind of person do you want to become? Once you're clear on your vision, the next step is to break it down. You don't climb a mountain in one giant leap. You take it one step at a time. It's the same with your habits. Start small. Pick one habit that will move you closer to your goal. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier to work on a project. Maybe it's reading 10 pages of a book every day. Maybe it's committing to exercise for 15 minutes. Whatever it is, make it small, make it manageable, and make it something you can do consistently. Now let me tell you something about consistency. This is where most people get it wrong. They think it's about being perfect. They think if they miss a day or make a mistake, they've failed. But that's not true. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about doing the best you can with what you have, day after day. And when you miss a day, which you will, because you're human, you don't beat yourself up. You just get back on track. That's what matters. Another key to building strong habits is to make them easy. You see, the easier a habit is, the more likely you are to stick with it. So if you want to start exercising, don't tell yourself you're going to run 5 miles every morning. If you've never run a mile in your life, start with a 5-minute walk. If you want to eat healthier, don't try to overhaul your entire diet overnight. Start by adding one healthy meal or snack to your day. Keep it simple. Keep it achievable. And as you build momentum, you can build on those habits. And here's a little trick that works wonders. Tie your new habit to something you're already doing. For example, if you want to start journaling, do it right after you brush your teeth in the morning. If you want to practice gratitude, do it while you're having your morning coffee. By connecting your new habit to an existing one, you make it easier to remember and integrate into your routine. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin. Breaking bad habits. Because let's face it, we all have them. The habits that hold us back, that drain our energy, that keep us stuck. And just like building good habits, breaking bad ones starts with awareness. You have to recognize them. You have to be honest with yourself about what's not working. And then you have to make a decision to change. One of the best ways to break a bad habit is to make it harder to do. If you're trying to spend less time on your phone, put it in another room when you're working. If you're trying to cut back on junk food, don't keep it in the house. Remove the temptation. Create an environment that supports your goals, not one that works against them. I also want to say this: be patient with yourself. Habits take time to build, and they take time to break. It's a process. It's a journey. And there will be days when it feels hard. But remember this: every small step you take matters. Every time you make a better choice, you're reinforcing the habit. You're rewiring your brain. And over time, those small steps lead to big changes. So why does all of this matter? Why are habits so important? Because they're the foundation of your life. They determine how you spend your time, how you use your energy, and ultimately who you become. And the beautiful thing about habits is that they give you control. They put you in the driver's seat. They allow you to design a life that reflects your values, your goals, and your potential. Think about this for a moment. If you commit to just one new habit, something small but meaningful, and you stick with it for a year, how much could that change your life? And what if you did that every year? Imagine the person you could become. Imagine the life you could create. So here's my challenge to you. Start today. Pick one habit. One small manageable habit that will move you closer to your goals. Commit to it. Be consistent. And watch as it grows, as it compounds, as it transforms your life. Because when you build habits that lead to success, you're not just changing your days, you're changing your future. And that's a future worth working for. Number 4, the ripple effect of small wins. Let me ask you something. How often do you pause to acknowledge your wins, even the small ones? Think about it. Most of us tend to overlook the small victories in our lives. We're so focused on the big picture, the major milestones, that we forget how powerful the little wins can be. But let me tell you this, small wins are not just nice moments to appreciate. They're the foundation of something much bigger. They create a ripple effect, one that can change your life in ways you may not even realize yet. You see, success doesn't come in one big leap. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not some magical event where everything suddenly falls into place. Success is built, step by step, through small, consistent actions. And every small win along the way matters. Every time you take a step in the right direction, no matter how small it seems, you're creating momentum. You're proving to yourself that you can do it. You're building confidence. And most importantly, you're creating a habit of winning. Here's the thing. Small wins have a way of compounding over time. It's like rolling a snowball down a hill. At first it's small, almost insignificant. But as it keeps rolling, it picks up more snow. It gets bigger, and eventually it becomes unstoppable. That's the power of small wins. They may seem tiny in the moment, but over time they build on each other. And before you know it, they lead to something extraordinary. Let me share an example. Let's say you have a big goal, something that feels overwhelming, like running a marathon, starting a business, or writing a book. When you look at the whole thing, it's easy to feel intimidated. It's easy to think, how am I ever going to do this? But when you break it down into small steps, it becomes manageable. Maybe your first small win is lacing up your running shoes and going for a 10-minute jog. Maybe it's spending an hour researching your business idea. Maybe it's writing just one page of your book. Those are small wins. They may not seem like much on their own, but they're the steps that lead you to your goal. And here's the beauty of small wins. They build your belief in yourself. Every time you achieve one, you're sending a message to yourself that says, I can do this. You're proving to yourself that you're capable, that you're moving forward, that you're making progress. And that belief, it's one of the most powerful forces you have. Because when you believe in yourself, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be saying, but Jim, my small wins don't feel like they're adding up. They don't feel significant. And I understand that. It's easy to dismiss the little things when you're not seeing immediate results. But let me remind you of something important. Progress isn't always visible in the moment. Sometimes the changes are happening beneath the surface. Sometimes it takes time for the results to show. But that doesn't mean you're not moving forward. It doesn't mean your small wins don't matter. Trust the process. Trust that every little step you take is bringing you closer to where you want to be. Another thing about small wins is that they create a positive cycle. When you achieve a small win, you feel good about yourself. You feel motivated, and that motivation makes it easier to take the next step, to aim for the next win. It's like lighting a spark. Once it's there, it spreads, it grows, and before you know it, you've created a fire of momentum that keeps you going. Let me give you another perspective. Think about the habits you have right now, the ones that serve you and the ones that don't. Every habit started as a small action. Maybe it was a choice you made once, then again, and then again until it became automatic. That's how habits are formed. And small wins work the same way. They're the seeds of new habits, new routines, new ways of living. When you focus on winning small, you're not just achieving a goal, you're creating a new version of yourself. You're becoming the kind of person who shows up, who takes action, who gets things done. And let's not forget the emotional side of this. Small wins feel good. They give you a sense of accomplishment, of progress, of forward motion. And that feeling, it's incredibly motivating. It keeps you going on the days when the big picture feels too far away. It reminds you that you're on the right track, that you're doing the work, that you're making it happen. So how do you create more small wins in your life? Start by setting yourself up for success. Make your goals manageable. Don't overwhelm yourself with huge, unrealistic expectations. Instead, focus on what you can do today. What's one small step you can take right now? What's one action you can take that will move you forward? Even just a little. That's your small win. Celebrate it, acknowledge it, let it fuel you for the next step. And here's something else to keep in mind. Not every win has to be perfect. It's not about doing everything flawlessly. It's about showing up, doing your best, and making progress. So don't get caught up in perfectionism. Don't let the fear of making a mistake hold you back. Just take the step. Do the thing. Win small and win often. I want to leave you with this thought. Your life is made up of moments. Moments, small actions, small choices, and those moments, they're what create your future. So don't underestimate the power of small wins. Don't overlook their importance. Because when you add them up, when you let them build on each other, they can lead to something truly remarkable. And that, my friends, is how you create a life you're proud of. One small win at a time. Number 5, discipline. The secret weapon. Discipline is such an interesting word, isn't it? For some people, it feels like a heavy weight, a burden. It sounds like restriction, like sacrifice. But for others, discipline is something entirely different. It's a source of freedom, a path to achievement, a secret weapon that sets them apart. And I'll tell you right now, discipline is exactly that. It's the quiet force behind every success story you've ever admired. It's the reason some people move mountains while others stay stuck. And today I want to show you how discipline can become your greatest ally. Now let me say this up front. Discipline isn't about punishing yourself or living a joyless life. It's not about deprivation. Discipline is simply your ability to stay committed to what matters to you. It's about keeping your promises to yourself. Think about that for a moment. Keeping promises to yourself. Isn't that one of the most powerful things you can do? Because when you keep your word, especially to yourself, you build trust. And trust is the foundation of confidence. Discipline is like a muscle. You're not born with it fully formed. You build it, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. It starts with small decisions. It's waking up when your alarm goes off instead of hitting snooze. It's choosing the healthier meal when the unhealthy option is calling your name. It's spending an hour on your goals instead of scrolling through distractions. These small acts of discipline might not seem like much on their own, but they add up. They build momentum. They create habits. And over time, they transform your life. I know what you might be thinking, but Jim, discipline is hard. It feels uncomfortable. And you're right at first. It is hard. But here's the truth. Anything worth having requires effort, growth, requires effort. And yes, discipline requires effort. But the discomfort of discipline is nothing compared to the pain of regret. Think about that. Discipline might mean doing something uncomfortable now, but regret stays with you. It lingers. It's the weight of knowing you could have done more, been more, achieved more. Let me share a little story with you. I once heard someone say, discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. And that stuck with me, because it's so true. Discipline is the small price you pay to create the life you want. It's the daily choice to stay on track, to stay committed, to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. And let's be honest, we're not always going to feel like it. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline stays. Discipline shows up even when you're tired, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching. That's what makes it so powerful. Now let's talk about the rewards of discipline, because they're not just big, they're life-changing. When you practice discipline, you build self-respect. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who takes action, someone who can be relied on. That kind of self-respect is priceless. It's what gives you the confidence to set bigger goals, to dream bigger dreams, to push beyond what you thought was possible. And here's the thing, discipline doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everyone around you. When you're disciplined, you become a better parent, a better partner, a better friend, a better leader. Why? Because discipline allows you to show up as your best self. It helps you prioritize what truly matters. It gives you the strength to be there for the people you care about, to lead by example, to inspire others to be their best selves too. I know discipline isn't always glamorous. It's not the kind of thing that gets a lot of attention. It's not flashy. It's not exciting, but it's effective. It works, and it's always worth it. Because discipline is what turns dreams into reality. It's what takes your goals off the page and brings them to life. It's what helps you stay the course when things get tough, when distractions arise, when the temptation to quit feels strong. Let's talk about those moments of temptation, because they're inevitable. There will be times when you want to give up, when you want to take the easy way out. And in those moments, discipline is your anchor. It's what keeps you grounded. It's what reminds you of why you started in the first place. So when you feel like quitting, ask yourself, why did I start? What's at stake if I give up? What do I stand to gain if I keep going? Those questions can reignite your fire. They can help you push through the tough moments and stay focused on your bigger vision. Another important thing about discipline is that it's not about being perfect. Let me say that again. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up day after day and doing the work. Even if you stumble, even if you fall short, discipline is about getting back up and trying again. It's about progress, not perfection. And when you embrace that mindset, discipline becomes so much more manageable. It becomes something you can practice, something you can grow into, something you can master. Now I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine your life 1 year from now. Imagine what it could look like if you committed to discipline starting today. Imagine the goals you could achieve, the habits you could build, the person you could become. It's an incredible vision, isn't it? And it's within your reach. But it starts here. It starts now. It starts with the decision to embrace discipline, to make it your ally, to let it guide you toward the life you truly want. Discipline is your secret weapon. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. It's the tool that allows you to build a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. So I challenge you today, take that first step. Start small if you need to. But show yourself what you're capable of. Prove to yourself that you can do it. Because when you practice discipline, you're not just changing your habits, you're changing your life. And there's nothing more powerful than that. Number 6, why most people quit too soon. I want to speak about why most people quit too soon. And when I say too soon, I'm talking about that moment right before the breakthrough, right before things start to change, right before you get to the other side of the struggle. You see, this is a pattern I've noticed in so many people. They start with great enthusiasm. They're full of energy. They're ready to conquer the world. And then when the journey gets tough, when they face obstacles, when progress slows down, they quit. They give up on their goals, their dreams, their potential. And let me tell you, that's one of the biggest tragedies in life. Most people quit not because they're incapable, not because the goal is impossible, but because they lose patience. They lose faith. They forget why they started in the first place. And it's heartbreaking because they're often so close to succeeding. They just don't know it. They think the struggle is a sign they're failing, But it's not. Struggle is part of the process. It's part of growth. And if you can learn to push through those moments when quitting seems like the easiest option, you'll find that those are the moments that transform you. Think about this for a second. Anything worthwhile in life takes time. It takes effort. It takes persistence. But we live in a world that wants instant results. People want success overnight. They want the rewards without the work, the transformation without the patience. And when they don't see immediate results, they think it's not working. They think it's not worth it. So they stop, they walk away, and they never get to experience the incredible rewards that come from staying the course. Let me ask you something. How many times in your life have you started something and given up on it before you gave it your all? Maybe it was a fitness goal. You hit the gym for a few weeks, but you didn't see the results you wanted right away, so you stopped. Or maybe it was a business idea. You were excited at first, but when things didn't take off as quickly as you hoped, you gave up. Or maybe it was a relationship, a skill you wanted to learn, or a habit you wanted to build. How many times have you quit because it felt too hard, or because you thought it wasn't working? I'll tell you this, every time you quit too soon, you rob yourself of the chance to grow, the chance to improve, the chance to win. And here's why success is never linear. It's not a straight line. It's not a steady climb. It's full of ups and downs, setbacks and breakthroughs. And those tough moments, those moments when you feel like giving up, they're not there to stop you. They're there to test you. They're there to strengthen you. They're there to see if you're really committed to what you say you want. You've probably heard the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a simple truth, but it's a powerful one. Big achievements take time. Mastery takes time. Building something meaningful takes time. And yet most people give up long before they've given themselves the chance to succeed. Why? Because the middle of the journey, the messy part, the part where progress is slow and the outcome is uncertain, that's where it's hardest to keep going. That's where the real test lies. But if you can push through that middle, if you can keep going when it's not easy, you'll find that's where the magic happens. I've talked to so many people over the years who've said, Jim, I just don't think I'm cut out for this. I've been trying, but it's not working. And my response is always the same. How long have you been trying? Have you given it everything you've got? Have you stayed consistent even when it felt like nothing was happening? Most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, people give up just as they're starting to gain momentum. They don't see the results they want, so they assume it's not working. But the truth is, success takes time to show itself. Think about planting a seed. You put it in the ground. You water it. You make sure it gets sunlight. But you don't see it grow right away, do you? For weeks, maybe even months, there's no sign of life above the surface. But beneath the surface, something is happening. The roots are spreading. The foundation is being built. And then one day that seed breaks through the soil, and it starts to grow. That's how success works. The results might not be visible right away, but that doesn't mean they're not coming. I want to tell you a story about a bamboo tree. The Chinese bamboo tree is an incredible example of patience and persistence. When you plant the seed, you have to water it and care for it for 5 years before you see anything above the ground. 5 years of no visible progress. But then, in a matter of weeks, the bamboo tree grows over 80 feet tall. Why? Because during those 5 years, it was developing its root system. It was building a strong foundation, so it could grow rapidly when the time was right. That's what it's like when you stick with something long enough to see the results. Your efforts might not pay off immediately, but if you stay consistent, if you keep showing up, if you refuse to quit, you'll eventually see the fruits of your labor. And when you do, it'll be worth every ounce of effort, every moment of doubt, every challenge you had to overcome. So how do you keep going when you feel like quitting? How do you stay the course when the results aren't coming as quickly as you'd like? You remind yourself of why you started. You focus on the progress you've made, no matter how small it seems. You celebrate the little wins. And most importantly, you keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when it's frustrating, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because that's what separates the people who succeed from the people who don't. The willingness to keep going when others quit. I want you to think about your goals right now. Think about the dreams you've been working toward. Are you ready to give up on them? Or are you willing to dig deep, to stay the course, to see them through? Because I'll tell you this, most people quit too soon. But you don't have to be most people. You can choose to keep going. You can choose to stay committed. You can choose to be patient and trust the process. Remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. Every challenge you face, every obstacle you overcome, every step you take, it's all part of your growth. It's all shaping you into the person you're meant to become. So don't quit. Don't give up on yourself. Don't let the struggle convince you that you're not making progress. You are. And one day, when you look back, you'll be so glad you didn't stop. You'll be so proud of how far you've come. And you'll know that every moment of persistence, every act of discipline, every decision to keep going, it was all worth it. Number 7, turning obstacles into opportunities. Let's talk about something that truly separates those who grow from those who remain stuck. It's the ability to take what seems like a roadblock, what feels like an obstacle, and turn it into an opportunity. You know, life isn't smooth. It's full of twists and turns, unexpected challenges, and setbacks that feel unfair. But here's the truth. It's not about avoiding obstacles. It's about how you face them, how you respond, and what you choose to do when life throws a curveball your way. When most people hit a wall, they stop. They see the obstacle as the end of the road. Well, I guess this isn't meant for me, they say. Maybe this goal is too hard. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. And that's where they miss out. What they don't realize is that obstacles aren't there to stop you. They're there to teach you, to stretch you, to make you stronger. They're life's way of saying, are you ready for this? Are you willing to work for it? Are you willing to grow into the person who can handle this challenge? I've seen it time and time again. The people who succeed, the ones who rise to the top, they don't have fewer obstacles than anyone else. In fact, they often face even bigger challenges. But what sets them apart is their mindset. They don't see the obstacle as a dead end. They see it as a puzzle to solve, a test to pass, a lesson to learn. They take the difficulty and ask themselves, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to grow? What's the opportunity hidden inside this challenge? Now let me ask you this. When was the last time you faced a real challenge? Think about how you responded. Did you let it stop you? Or did you dig in, get resourceful, and find a way to move forward? Because I'll tell you something. How you handle obstacles says a lot about how far you're willing to go. It's easy to keep moving when the path is clear and smooth. But when the road gets tough, that's when your true character shows. Let me share a story. There was a young man who wanted to become a top athlete. He trained hard every single day, putting in hours at the gym, on the track, wherever he could. He dreamed of competing at the highest level. But one day, he had an accident, an injury that doctors said could end his career before it even began. Now, most people would have accepted that as the end. They would have packed it up and said, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be, but not this guy. Instead of giving up, he focused on what he could still do. He worked on his mindset, his nutrition, his strategy. He found ways to train around his injury, and eventually he came back stronger than before. Not only did he compete, but he went on to win. That's the power of turning obstacles into opportunities. It's about refusing to let the circumstances define you. It's about getting creative, staying resilient, and finding a way forward even when it seems impossible. And here's the thing. It's not just about the big dramatic challenges. It's about the little ones, too. The ones you face every day. The argument that could ruin your mood for hours, or the unexpected expense that throws off your budget, or the criticism that makes you question yourself. These are opportunities, too. Opportunities to practice patience, to build resilience, to grow into someone stronger and wiser. You might be wondering, but Jim, how do I even start? How do I turn an obstacle into an opportunity when all I see is the problem in front of me? And my answer is this. Start by changing the way you think about it. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of focusing on what you've lost, focus on what you still have and what you can do with it. That shift in mindset is powerful. It takes you from being a victim of circumstance to being the creator of your own destiny. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're working on a project, something important to you, and everything seems to go wrong. Deadlines are missed, resources are limited, and nothing is going according to plan. Most people would throw up their hands in frustration and walk away. But if you see it as an opportunity, you'd say, all right, what can I do with what I've got? How can I adapt? How can I use this as a chance to grow my creativity, my problem-solving skills, my ability to stay calm under pressure? That's how you grow. That's how you turn a frustrating experience into one that makes you better. I'll be honest with you. This isn't easy. It takes effort. It takes practice. It takes a willingness to let go of excuses and take responsibility for your own growth. But I promise you, it's worth it. Because every time you overcome an obstacle, every time you find the opportunity within the challenge, you're building a foundation for future success. You're proving to yourself that you can handle whatever life throws at you. And that kind of confidence, that kind of resilience, is priceless. Here's another thing I want you to remember. Sometimes the obstacle itself becomes your greatest advantage. Think about all the stories you've heard of people who turned their setbacks into stepping stones. The entrepreneur who was fired from their job and used it as motivation to start their own business. The artist who faced rejection after rejection and used it to fuel their determination to succeed. The student who struggled in school but found innovative ways to learn and ended up excelling. These people didn't just overcome their obstacles. They used them to propel themselves forward. And you can do the same. The next time you face a challenge, don't run from it. Don't avoid it. Lean into it. Ask yourself, what is the opportunity here? How can I use this to grow, to learn, to get better? It might not be obvious at first, and that's okay. Sometimes the opportunity is buried deep, and it takes time to uncover, but it's there. If you're willing to look for it, I'll leave you with this thought. The obstacles in your life are not there to stop you. They're there to teach you. They're there to shape you. They're there to make you stronger, wiser, and more capable. So don't let them defeat you. Don't let them hold you back. Instead, use them as fuel. Use them as a reason to keep going. Use them as a reminder that you are capable of more than you think. You have the power to turn every obstacle into an opportunity. You just have to choose to see it that way. And when you do, you'll discover that the challenges you once feared are the very things that lead you to your greatest growth and success. Keep going, my friend. You're stronger than you know, and your best days are still ahead of you. Number 8, measure your progress, not perfection. When we talk about progress, most people measure it the wrong way. They look at where they are compared to where they think they should be. And when it doesn't match up, they feel discouraged. They get stuck in this endless loop of self-doubt and frustration because they're focused on perfection instead of progress. But life doesn't work like that. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. And success isn't about being perfect. It's about becoming better, day by day. It's about measuring your progress, not perfection. Now let me ask you this. How often do you stop and look back at how far you've come? I'm serious. How often do you actually pause and take stock of the growth you've already made? See, most people don't. They're so busy chasing the next goal, the next milestone, that they forget to celebrate the steps they've already taken. And that's a mistake. Because when you measure your progress, when you acknowledge the small victories along the way, something powerful happens. You build momentum. You remind yourself that you're capable of growth, that you're moving forward, even if it doesn't always feel like it. The problem is, we live in a world that loves instant results. We're surrounded by highlight reels, by stories of overnight success, by people who seem to have it all figured out. And when we compare our lives to theirs, it's easy to feel like we're falling short. But let me tell you something. What you see on the surface is never the whole story. Every overnight success you've ever heard of was built on years, sometimes decades, of hard work, struggle, and incremental progress. The problem is, nobody talks about that part. They skip over the messy middle, the part where the real growth happens. So here's what I want you to do. Stop comparing yourself to where you think you should be. Stop comparing yourself to other people's highlight reels. Instead, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, or last week, or last year. Look at the small steps you've taken, the habits you've built, the challenges you've overcome. That's where the real progress lies. And when you start focusing on that, you'll realize that you're not as far off as you think. Let's take a moment to get real. Think about a goal you've been working toward. Maybe it's a fitness goal, or a career milestone, or even something personal like building stronger relationships. Now be honest with yourself. How do you feel about your progress so far? Are you proud of the steps you've taken? Or are you beating yourself up for not being further along? If it's the latter, I want you to stop right now and shift your perspective. Because here's the truth. The fact that you're even working towards something, the fact that you're putting in the effort, means you're already ahead of most people. Most people don't even try. And progress isn't always about big leaps. In fact, it's rarely about big leaps. It's about the small, consistent steps you take every single day. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, even when the results aren't immediately visible. Those small steps add up over time, but only if you keep going. And the only way to keep going is to measure your progress, not against perfection, but against your own growth. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're trying to save money for something important. Maybe it's a house, or a car, or even a trip you've been dreaming of. At first it feels overwhelming. You look at the total amount you need, and it seems impossible. But then you start small. You cut back on unnecessary expenses. You put a little aside each week, and slowly but surely, your savings grow. Now, if you were to focus only on how far you still have to go, you might feel discouraged. But if you focus on how much you've already saved, even if it's just a small amount, you'll feel motivated to keep going. That's the power of measuring progress. It's the same with anything in life. Whether you're learning a new skill, building a business, or improving your health, the key is to track the small wins. Maybe you read one chapter of a book today, or you made one healthy meal, or you reached out to one new client. Those things might seem insignificant in the moment, but they're not. They're steps in the right direction, and every step counts. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't aim high. Of course, you should have big dreams and ambitious goals. But don't let the gap between where you are and where you want to be discourage you. Let it inspire you. Let it remind you that every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a student, and every success story started with someone taking that first imperfect step. And let's not forget one of the most important parts of measuring progress: celebrating your wins. This is something so many people overlook, but it's absolutely crucial. When you take the time to celebrate your progress, no matter how small, you reinforce the behavior that got you there. You tell your brain, hey, this is working. Let's keep doing it. It's not about throwing a party every time you accomplish something. It's about acknowledging the effort you've put in and giving yourself credit for showing up. So how do you measure your progress? Start by tracking it. Write it down, keep a journal, or even just take a moment at the end of each day to reflect on what you've accomplished. It doesn't have to be complicated. The important thing is that you make it a habit. And remember, progress isn't always visible. Sometimes the biggest growth happens on the inside. Your mindset, your attitude, your resilience. Don't overlook those things. They matter just as much, if not more, than the tangible results. I want you to leave here today with a new perspective. I want you to stop chasing perfection and start appreciating progress. I want you to stop being so hard on yourself and start giving yourself credit for how far you've come. Because you're doing better than you think. You're growing, you're learning, and you're moving forward. And as long as you keep taking those small, consistent steps, you're on the right track. So the next time you feel like you're not making enough progress, remember this: success isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, doing the work, and becoming a little bit better each day. It's about progress, not perfection. And when you focus on that, you'll be amazed at how far you can go. Keep going, my friend. You've got this. Number 9, building a life you're proud of. Brick by brick. When you think about building a life you're proud of, it's easy to get overwhelmed. The big picture can feel daunting, can't it? You imagine the life you want, the achievements, the relationships, the peace of mind, and it feels so far away that you don't even know where to start. But let me tell you something. Every great life, every dream realized, every success story you admire was built the same way, brick by brick. It's never about one grand gesture or a single leap. It's about the daily decisions, the consistent actions, the small wins that stack up over time. Here's the truth. No one wakes up one morning and magically has the life they've always wanted. It's not handed to you. And it doesn't just happen by chance. It's something you create, step by step. It's built in the quiet moments, in the choices you make when no one's watching. It's built when you decide to show up, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient. And the beauty of building your life this way is that it gives you control. You don't have to rely on luck or hope. You can take responsibility and start laying those bricks today. Think about a bricklayer. They don't focus on building the entire wall in one day. Instead, they focus on laying each brick as perfectly as they can. They place it with care. They align it properly, and they make sure it's solid before moving on to the next one. And over time, those individual bricks come together to form something strong, something lasting. That's how you build your life. You focus on what you can do today, this hour, this moment, and you do it well. Then you do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Before you know it, those small efforts will add up to something remarkable. The key is to start where you are with what you have. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Don't wait until you feel ready, because the truth is, you'll never feel completely ready, and the conditions will never be perfect. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you start. Maybe today, starting looks like setting a goal for yourself. Or maybe it's taking the first step toward a goal you've been putting off. Maybe it's something as simple as waking up a little earlier or spending an hour working on a skill you want to improve. Whatever it is, start small and start now. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they have to do it all at once. They think they need to make massive changes overnight, and when they can't sustain it, they get discouraged and give up. But life isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And the most sustainable progress happens slowly, steadily, and consistently. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing something consistently. Small efforts, repeated over time, lead to big results. That's how you build momentum. And once you have momentum, everything gets easier. You start to feel confident, capable, and in control. You start to see the progress you're making, and that motivates you to keep going. But let's be honest, there will be challenges along the way. There will be days when you feel like it's not worth it, when you wonder if you're even making a difference. And that's when you need to remind yourself why you started in the first place. What kind of life do you want to build? What kind of person do you want to become? Hold on to that vision, because it will give you the strength to keep going when things get tough. And remember, setbacks are a part of the process. They don't mean you've failed. They mean you're learning. Every mistake, every obstacle, every detour is an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. As you build your life brick by brick, don't forget to enjoy the process. Too often, we get so focused on the destination that we forget to appreciate the journey. But the journey is where the magic happens. It's where you learn, where you grow, where you discover what you're capable of. So take a moment to celebrate your progress. Celebrate the small wins, the milestones, the effort you've put in, because those moments matter. They're proof that you're moving in the right direction. And while you're at it, don't be afraid to dream big. Don't be afraid to imagine a life that excites you, that challenges you, that fills you with purpose. Because here's the thing, you are capable of more than you think. You have potential inside you that you haven't even begun to tap into. But that potential will only be realized if you're willing to put in the work. It will only be realized if you're willing to show up every day and lay those bricks, one by one. Let me share something with you. A life you're proud of isn't just about achieving goals or checking things off a list. It's about the kind of person you become along the way. It's about the habits you build, the character you develop, the values you live by. It's about creating a life that reflects who you truly are, a life that aligns with your purpose and your passions. And that kind of life isn't built overnight. It's built through patience, perseverance, and a commitment to growth. So today, I want to challenge you to take a step forward. It doesn't have to be a big step. It can be as small as making a decision, setting an intention, or taking action on something you've been procrastinating on. Whatever it is, do it with purpose. Do it with care. Lay that brick as perfectly as you can, and then move on to the next one. Keep building, keep growing, and keep moving forward. Because every step you take, every brick you lay, brings you closer to the life you've always dreamed of. And remember this, the life you're building is your masterpiece. It's your legacy. So make it something you're proud of. Make it something that inspires you and others. Because at the end of the day, you get to decide what kind of life you want to create. And the best part, you don't have to do it all at once. You just have to start, brick by brick, step by step, day by day. That's how you build a life that truly matters. That's how you transform your dreams into reality. Keep going. You've got this. Number 10, celebrate the journey, not just the goal. When you're working toward a goal, it's easy to get caught up in the end result. We're all guilty of it. We focus so much on the finish line that we forget to appreciate the steps along the way. And let me tell you, that's a huge mistake. If you're only celebrating the final achievement, you're missing out on the true rewards of the journey. You're missing out on the growth, the learning, and the satisfaction that comes with every step, no matter how small it may seem. Here's the thing. Success isn't just about reaching the destination. It's about the person you become in the process. It's about who you are while you're working toward that goal, not just who you are when you finally reach it. And if you're not taking the time to celebrate each part of the journey, then you're robbing yourself of the true value of the experience. I want you to think about that for a second. If you're always focused on the end result, you're constantly chasing something that's just out of reach. You're always thinking, I'll be happy when I finally get this, or I'll feel accomplished when I achieve that. But here's the truth. The feeling of accomplishment doesn't just come from achieving your goals. It comes from the work, the effort, the persistence, and the resilience you demonstrate along the way. When you make progress, no matter how small, you should celebrate that. You should take a moment to acknowledge how far you've come, how much you've learned, and how much you've grown. Let's be clear here. I'm not talking about resting on your laurels. I'm not saying you should celebrate for the sake of it and stop working toward the next step. But what I am saying is that you deserve to recognize your efforts, to appreciate what you're doing, and to be proud of what you've accomplished so far. Each step you take is part of something bigger, part of a bigger picture that's coming together little by little. When you stop to celebrate even the small victories, you build momentum. You give yourself a reason to keep going, to stay motivated. It's easy to get discouraged when you're focused solely on a distant goal that feels out of reach. But when you pause and celebrate, you remind yourself that progress is being made, that you're moving in the right direction. That feeling of accomplishment, no matter how small, fuels your next step. It encourages you to keep going, to keep pushing forward, because you know that every effort counts. There's a saying I like: don't wait until everything is just right. It will never be perfect. There's no perfect time, no perfect conditions, and no perfect place. It's just the right time to start. You see, perfection doesn't exist. So if you're waiting for everything to align perfectly before you take action or celebrate, you're setting yourself up for frustration. If you keep thinking that everything has to be perfect to be worthy of celebration, you're going to miss out on so many moments that matter. If you're making progress towards something, that progress is worth celebrating. Whether it's a personal goal, a work milestone, or something in your relationships or health, if you're improving, you're on the right track. Each little victory is a sign that you're doing something right, and celebrating those moments is what keeps you motivated to keep going. Think about it this way: the journey is made up of millions of tiny steps, and if you don't appreciate the tiny steps, the journey is going to feel like a grind. It's going to feel like you're just working, with no end in sight. And let's be real, that's not a place you want to be. Now let's talk about what celebrating the journey really looks like. It's not just about throwing a party or making a big deal of every little thing. It's about acknowledging your growth, recognizing your effort, and taking pride in the fact that you've shown up, even when it's hard. Celebrating the journey means patting yourself on the back when you hit a milestone, no matter how small. It means taking a moment to reflect on the progress you've made and giving yourself credit for doing the work, for staying disciplined, for pushing through the tough times. It's about noticing the things you've learned along the way. Maybe you've developed new skills or gained new knowledge. Maybe you've become more confident in yourself, or learned to overcome obstacles that used to stop you in your tracks. All of those things are worth celebrating, because each lesson is part of your growth, part of the person you're becoming. And that person, the one who keeps moving forward, no matter the challenges, is the true success. You're not just building a goal, you're building a new version of yourself. And here's the secret: the more you celebrate your progress, the more you will attract success. When you recognize and appreciate the work you're doing, it's like putting energy into a positive feedback loop. You feel good about your progress, and that positive energy fuels more progress. You begin to see more opportunities, feel more motivated, and tackle challenges with a new sense of purpose. I know it can be tough sometimes, especially when you're not seeing immediate results. But that's why celebrating the journey is so important. It's about acknowledging the fact that progress is happening, even when it feels slow. Remember, the person you're becoming along the way is just as important as the goals you're reaching. So take the time to recognize how far you've come. Celebrate your efforts, your wins, and your growth, because they matter. They are part of the bigger picture. They are building a life you can be proud of. Success isn't a destination, it's a journey. And if you want to truly enjoy the process, you need to celebrate each step you take, each moment of progress, and each lesson you learn. You deserve to feel good about the work you're doing, and you deserve to take pride in the person you're becoming. Celebrate the journey, and you'll find that the destination will feel even sweeter when you get there. So today I challenge you to look at your progress, no matter how small, and celebrate it. Take a moment to appreciate where you are, what you've accomplished, and how far you've come. Because when you start celebrating the journey, you'll find that the journey itself becomes the reward. And that, my friend, is where true success begins.